to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Road to Growth listeners. Today I'm here with Jewel. She is a wealth expert and author, crypto, all that good stuff. And you're listening to us right now. Maybe you might have known things are not going the greatest with crypto. Yet if you're listening to us later on, things could be changing. That's what people were looking at. Let's with Bitcoin, let's say, 8 years ago, 7 years ago? I mean, things change up, down. There's all cycles. Right, Jewel?
That's right. Actually, people, you might say they're not going great with crypto, but I think right now is just a buyer's market. So they do these kinds of things. You know, the market corrects itself. But I think that we are in for a 6-7 figure Bitcoin. And I think that crypto is going to disrupt everything. So people who thought it was a scam or people who are like, oh, I'm just going to stick with hedge funds and bonds and CDs, they're going to miss out on a lot of money.
All right. This is a question that I have to just jump into. What's your go-to crypto?
Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay. Well, easy enough. All right.
Yeah. I don't think you should ever sell that. I think you'll be able to leverage it. Well, we can leverage it now. You can get a loan out on any crypto that you own on Bitcoin and Ethereum up to 50% in cash.
Wow. All right. So if someone's in an elevator, I know you have a lot of hats, right? You're in an elevator. What's your elevator pitch? Hey, Jewel, what do you do? How would you describe yourself?
Well, I let people know that I'm a digital investor and there's a digital world and I want everybody to get in it. There's an article that actually came out that actually said that people are looking to purchase digital property in the metaverse before they even buy physical property. When Mark Zuckerberg made that announcement a couple months ago that Facebook's name was being changed to metaverse, it was very disruptive, and it really was just in alignment with why crypto and why now and why it's not going anywhere. The entire metaverse is ran off of crypto. You can buy digital property in metaverse with a cryptocurrency called Decentraland.
Why do you think people are? I mean, and I know you brought the idea that some people are buying metaverse land compared to, I guess, raw land or traditional land, right? Why do you think people are veering to that sector?
Well, I think that the people that are buying it, I think they realize the profitability. I mean, 6 years ago, when I first got started, nobody was interested in crypto. Everybody kind of thought it was a scam. They kind of brushed over it. But now you have major influencers like Logan Paul, Mayweather, Tory Lanez, the list goes on, that are now popping their own NFTs. And so I think people realize that crypto is here and it's here to stay. And so they want to get in on it. So I think for people that understand the value of where it's going, they're like, I'd much rather own digital property than physical, but I still want both.
Well, I mean, let's rewind a little bit then. Who was a young Jewel? Because I mean, this is a newer sector, right? Over the last 8, 10 years or so. I mean, who was a young Jewel? Was she into like the new stuff? Oh, you know what? This just came out. I got to basically blow this up. Or who was the young Jewel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, crypto is an infant. It's only been around for 10 years and it started at $10 and now it's sitting right around $42,000. I was blessed to start buying it right around $3,600 a couple years ago. And so, yeah, I mean, we see people like Britney Spears is coming out with an NFT. Ariana Grande had a virtual concert in the metaverse. 200,000 ticket holders showed up. 200,000. Snoop Dogg is having a virtual concert in his virtual mansion this month in the metaverse, and Justin Bieber. So there is a lot of influencers that you and I know and have heard about that are playing in this NFT crypto world.
Well, before crypto, before all this, I mean, who were you? Like, who were you in high school? Who were you back in your teens? Who was Jewel? I mean,
I wasn't thinking about no crypto. Well, first of all, crypto wasn't here.
Yeah.
I grew up as an entrepreneur with entrepreneurial parents, and my parents were very, very successful. And they own a chain of record stores in Detroit. They were actually the first African Americans to own a business downtown Detroit. And we grew up with like his and her Rolls Royce, his and her Mercedes. I had a Volvo at 16, housekeepers, cooks, and drivers. But at 19, we lost everything.
Wow.
And I was devastated.
What happened? What happened? How'd you
Well,
lose everything?
yeah, I know, right? I remember asking my mom, like, didn't we have any money saved? Didn't we have any money invested? My dad was an amazing producer and still is today, but he would put everything on lifestyle. Nothing would be paid off. Everything was always, we'll pay it off later. We'll invest later. So they were great producers. So we always had lifestyle, which made me think that was wealth. And I was angry with my mom because she didn't trust her own financial instinct. And from that day forward, I determined that I was going to always have my own independent wealth, married or not, that I was going to always have my own wealth. I was very disappointed in her at the time. I understand she was just a product of, her times where you just let the man make all the decisions. But I was like, nope, this girl's going to have her own.
Okay, I mean, let's rewind right there. I mean, especially at 19 years old, right? For your family to lose their funds, right? How was their mindset? And it sounds like your mindset was of anger right there. I mean,
Yeah.
what happened? Did you guys stop talking? Did they build back their wealth, or what happened?
Well, we didn't stop talking. I was still living with them. We were in a beautiful home in the suburbs of Detroit, in a suburb called Southfield, and it was freezing cold in Detroit, and the heat was off. Like, it was bad. Like, food was scarce. It was a bad time. My dad went into a depression, and my mom just kind of sat around helpless. Like, I mean, he was still fighting to try to rebuild, but he didn't pivot fast enough. It's almost like it reminds me of Blockbuster and Netflix. Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, hey, we're coming out with this digital product. Do you guys want to partner? They're like, no, we're the biggest and the baddest. Now they're antiquated and out of business. My parents, they're geniuses, but they didn't know how to pivot fast enough. And I don't think they had enough people around them that could tell them that retail was phasing out and going into distribution. And they didn't pivot fast enough. So today they're doing well. They own a construction company here in Tennessee. But I went on after that, honest to God, I started dating drug dealers at the time because I was trying to replace my financial lifestyle that I had come accustomed to. And honestly, in Detroit, at that point, it was like popular for girls to have like dope boys, which is crazy, of course, right? And that was fun for a few years, yachts and all that stuff, fast cars, until they started getting indicted and dying in some cases. And I was like, okay, Jewel, you went from men taking care of you, your father taking care of you, men taking care of you. Why can't you take care of yourself? And that's what really kind of led me on a serious financial wealth journey to understand wealth, its strategies, its cycles, its blueprints, its patterns. And I was blessed to have some pretty amazing wealth mentors in my life that happened to be men. And eventually I said, I want to start a club that teaches women, because I didn't see enough women at the top of their game in real estate, gold, silver, oil. It was always men at these, tables doing deals.
All right. So, I mean, you said you had men taking care of you, right? So 19, your family, then you had drug dealers, as you call them, right? Taking care of you. And then you knew you had to get out of it, right? Now, I'm guessing you didn't go cold turkey and go, I'm going to leave these people and do my own thing. There's probably some sort of transition into learning and kind of going on your own. What was that transition like?
Yeah, so I actually I worked temp services. There was a temp serve agency called Kelly Services, and I worked a few temp jobs there, answering phones and pouring coffee for CEOs and people in management. And then I realized I was good in sales, and I got a job at was called Ameritech, and I was selling cell phones. And I was doing really well. I was making about $4,000 a month. And I remember, and I was at U of M at the time. I'm a senior in college. And I realized I'm really good at sales. I can sell any and everything. And it was going really, really, really well. And then eventually I ended up getting hired with another cell phone company called Nextel. And they are not a business now, but it was a two-way radio and a cell phone. And I did really well with that, was one of the top salespeople. And then they came to me and said, you have an opportunity to start your own franchise. And I opened up my franchise, and that's where I actually made my first $1 million.
When did you, looking back on it, when do you think you sever your ties from someone helping you out compared to you helping yourself out? Do you remember when that kind of time was? When you
Yeah, yeah, I do. True story. I'm at home, I'm watching TV, and I see that this gentleman, the news pops up, and he says that he was being indicted for a drug-related murder. and it happened to be my boyfriend, and that he was a drug kingpin. And I was devastated. And I remember my phone ringing, and he was very popular in the city of Detroit at the time and owned a couple car dealerships, but they ended up being, there was laundering happening through those. And I was just like, you are like in some real drama. I was like, you are like in a whole hornet's nest of a mess. And I remember going to court a few times, working with his attorney, and it's like, I didn't do this. Da, 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 da. And, after a couple of months, I'm like, bruh did it. And I remember being there at the hearing, and they said that he had double life. And I was like, you got to change your life. And that for me was a serious turning point.
I mean, and I think for probably a lot of people, if you come from, I guess, money or have money kind of given to you, right? It's not maybe knowing the true value of that dollar. I mean, right? So if let's say you're spending on a meal, I don't know, like $100, $200, but it takes you 3 hours to make that same money right there, that has to be pretty deflating. You have to kind of almost change your mindset. So how are you change your mindset to saying, I'm doing this, making the money? Maybe it's not as much as I hope right now, but I know this is going to get me to where I want to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was blessed because my parents always worked really hard. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My uncles are still in business for themselves. One uncle is a real estate investor. Another uncle is an insurance agent. And then my grandparents own their own business. My grandma owned this flea market. So I came from people that worked really hard and really long. So I understood working hard. I just didn't have to do it until I was 19. That's when I got my first job. So I wasn't afraid of hard work. And I wasn't afraid to build. I think I enjoyed the challenge, especially when I got into sales, because I was like, oh, wait, I can make 3,000 this month, or I can make 30,000 this month. It just depends on, how many appointments I can set, how many goals how many appointments can I set? How many incentives can we put out? So it actually became I loved sales. I loved it. And I was really good at it. So it became a challenge, and I realized that there was no limits at that point.
What did you said you loved it and you're really good at it. Did you love it because you're really good at it, or is there another thing that you got out of it?
I think I love communicating with people why they should buy this. At the time it was like Nextel. And then I remember I eventually ended up marrying my husband, who I'm married to today. Amazing man. And I remember when we first got married, I was, he's like, you don't have to work. I'm gonna take care of you. And I did that for a couple of years, and I started gaining weight. I'm like, baby, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I got to do something. Okay. And I started selling skincare, and I loved that skincare. So I think I just love realizing that I had an ability to communicate with people where they understood it, they liked it, and they were receptive to it. And then especially whatever I sold, it was a product that I really used. So I became passionate about it. So I think I just love the communication, the reception, the results of whatever that product was at the time. So I think I loved all that, and definitely the profit.
Do you see a difference in your mindset with sales when you had the Nextel business and you were making money to live, compared to when your husband, or your I guess your now husband, said you don't need to work, but you wanted to work to make kind of money, but there's maybe a different mindset or feeling? Is there something different in that? Or
It
no?
is different, because I think in the beginning it was like, okay, I need to make this money to pay bills.
Yeah.
And we get into it's a whole nother story, but I was married before to somebody who was not ambitious. He talked ambition, but he wasn't. So I wanted all this, and he said he wanted all this, but he wasn't willing to do the work. And so I ended up paying most of the bills. That wasn't fun. And initially it was just, I wanted to have a particular life for myself. But then I think once I married my husband today, who is an amazing provider, then it was about, if I want to buy my parents a home for $500,000, but maybe he only wants to spend 6 figures, I want to be able to do the $500,000. Or if I want to, for example, I'm a big investor in the city of Detroit in real estate. When I first started investing in the inner city of Detroit, my husband wasn't interested. He's like, honey, I come from the inner city. I'm not interested in going back there and buying those homes. in doing that. But thankfully, because I had my own money, I didn't need his permission. So I was always a girl who did not want to get anybody else's permission. I respect my husband for saying no, but I respect my yes. So for me, it was the freedom and the options to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it. He wanted my daughter to stay to school locally. I felt like she needed to go away to Howard University in DC because she was spoiled. I'm like, she needs to get out of here. And he's like, well, I'll pay for her to go here. I'm like, cool, I can pay for her to go to Howard because I had my own money. It wasn't a big deal. So I just like the freedom of that. And I want everybody to experience that kind of freedom. I think it's inhumane when you can't do something that you desire because somebody else says they don't want to.
When did you start realizing that you had this knowledge or mindset that you wanted to give back, like you said?
I think when I was, the story before was when I was married to my ex-husband, and he called one day, actually. We just had a baby girl. She's probably like 6 months. He says, I'm not coming back. And I was like, this is really jacked up. Like, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I called my parents and they said, come home. And I did. And I had a lot of support when that happened, which helped me to emotionally bounce back very fast because he was abusive anyway. So it was like, you need to get out of this. But I think that having so much help and support felt so good. But I knew a lot of my other friends who were single parents who didn't have the help, who didn't have the support. So I said, when I get the money, I'm going to give back. So for the last several years, the Jewel Tankard Foundation has given 2 cars away to single parents, one in Detroit and one here in Nashville where I live, because I always wanted to be a bridge to give back. And now even every week I give away clothes and shoes. Like, I'm a big giver, because I haven't always had it this way. I was on food stamps for a year and it was not easy. So I always determined that once I had it, I would be a distribution center to support other people on their way up.
And I guess that includes basically kind of giving back in as an author, information, things like that. Do you recall when you think you had it, when you go, okay, I made it and I have enough knowledge, now I can provide it to other people?
I want to say, yeah, but I think when, I can remember some things happening for my husband and I that I feel like, okay, you got it going on a little bit. You're a little bossy. And I think that was probably when, I kind of looked at my wealth portfolio, what I had been able to build. And I think, I feel like, I want to share with some other women, about my journey. Cause I still, even today, hear a lot of economic oppression. A lot of women trust their instincts on what to cook for dinner, but not their instincts on doing a deal or buying a property or buying crypto. I think that women still feel like they need a lot of approval for men. And I love men. My husband is amazing. So this is not a shot against men. This is just, I want to see more women trust their own instinct. And who knows, their husbands might end up following like my husband did. He didn't have anything to do with trading and all the stuff that I do. And now he's killing the markets. But it was me demonstrating, me trusting my instinct, because he didn't want to do crypto 6 years when I got involved. And now he's killing it in crypto. So
how do you empower women to trust their instincts? Is it just really information? Is it more of a mindset? I mean, where do you think the big hurdle is?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is getting the education and them sent that little, that thing in your gut that you get when you're like, ooh, I like that. It's like, all the girls can, you're walking through Nordstrom's and you see those boots and those boots are like, psst. It's like the whisperer over there is talking to me. Those boots are talking to me. And before you even walk over to it, you don't even care how much it is. You're like, I'm walking out of here with those boots. And if they don't have my size, I'm going to have them check online and ship them, because you just know you're supposed to have those boots. It's like that with money. But I think it's about trusting that little inkling. And then once you trust it once and it leads you to wealth, then you trust it again. Because every single deal, every time I've been blessed to do deals, it wasn't because I understood everything first. It was like I learned and earned at the same time. It wasn't overanalyzation, because a lot of people end up procrastinating and not, coming into, because they overanalyze, which causes them to procrastinate, which causes them to stagnate. And therefore they're like, I should be further. And they really should, but they did not trust their instinct.
Well, what happens, I mean, when your instinct sends you in the wrong direction? I mean, because I'm assuming not all the investments you've done, right, have been winners, right?
No.
So what happens when it does steer in the wrong direction? What's your mindset when that happens?
You got to look at it as a lesson. I mean, I think that if you're going to grow as an entrepreneur or as an investor, you're going to have a proper risk tolerance. Everything is a risk. It's a risk if I invest, and if it's a risk if I don't, because then you risk being broke, or you risk being in the middle class. You risk being squeezed by hyperinflation. You risk needing the government to take care of you. You risk, waiting for GoFundMe. You risk, so everything is a risk. I'd rather risk saying, hey, I have an opportunity to make 10M on this deal, than risk, getting stuck at 5 figures a year or 6 figures a year. So I think everything is a risk, but you just have to realize that either way, I'm going to take a lesson. So just look at it as a lesson, and you get better the next time, and next time it'll work. But I think it's dangerous to take a lesson, I like to say, and never do anything else, because you will not grow. And probably by default, poverty might end up coming to your house. And I hate poverty because the results of it are horrific. Your health conditions, social conditions, everything is just horrific.
Where do you see yourself and your businesses going in like 5 years from now?
I think we're going to be 1,000% digital. We already are very digital. We own digital property. I'm a co-owner in a virtual casino on, metaverse. So I think we'll probably be pretty much 90% digital, but I think it's still important to have that social connectivity and social intelligence to work with people, because people don't want to just sign up and talk to a robot. They want to talk to a real person that they feel like can empathize with where they are, and encourage them that they can have this success too. So I think you'll probably be seeing me on the cover of Forbes as a billionaire within the next 5 years. We're definitely tracking that as a company, and in our investments, and some of the deals that we have, and some of the partnerships and collaborations. So that's where we're headed.
With the digital verse, right, the metaverse, right? How hard is it to, like, I guess, get permits to build or get land, or how does that work? I mean,
it's crazy, man. I'm still learning it too. It's not hard at all. Like, I have an Oculus right over there. Tasha, will you hand me my Oculus? I have an Oculus over there, and I just started playing around, building my digital office, walking through there, talking with other people. You can talk to other people on there. It's really not hard at all. We actually have, a teacher. This thing is so cool. And I'm not a gamer, but I just bought it because I am an investor. And so you just put this baby on like this, walk through the metaverse, and start talking to people. And there are meetup groups there, and there's offices there, and there's marketing there. And it's not hard to buy property. You just have to own a coin called Decentraland. And you can buy pretty much all property either with Decentraland or Ethereum through a crypto platform called MetaMask. And that's what we teach people, though. That's what we teach. We teach them how to maneuver through all these things.
Well, what about like the casino you talked about? I mean, is there a cap of how many casinos can be there, or do you have to like?
Yeah, there is. There's a cap on how many casinos, and there's even a cap on how many. Because I became a co-owner because I bought something called a gambling ape. Who knew? And so there's only so many gambling apes. And then there's bored apes, BORED.
Are these NFTs?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you bought NFTs to get you part ownership into this digital verse. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine people. Yeah, it's where it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now.
That's why I think we got to really educate ourselves, because it's almost kind of like the grandmother who, my grandmother just recently moved to heaven, but I remember talking to her earlier last year, and I had her on a Facebook Live. She was so cute. And I'd be like, Grandma, I got you on Facebook Live. She's like, who are they? Where are they? Like, it was so, it was so hard for her to conceive that there were people watching her all over the world. But it's because she stopped learning at some point. So I always tell people, whatever you do, don't stop learning, no matter how foreign it seems, because otherwise it'd be like my 96-year-old grandma who just, Facebook was just completely foreign. She was tickled by it, but I don't think she ever got the concept. And so it's the same thing with metaverse, cryptocurrency. You don't want to be that person that says, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll just leave that for them, because the people that are in the space will be the next, 50M, 100M, multiple millionaires and billionaires. I tell people, just, watch the wealthy, and that's how you become wealthy. Follow their cues, and you'll learn as you go.
I think most people listening, being entrepreneurs or getting into the mindset, they could probably jump into the cold water, right? Jump into the pool. But for people that aren't willing to jump in their whole body in there, but want to dip a toe in there, dip a foot in there, what's the best way, in your opinion, to go into that universe with either crypto or land or whatever it might be?
I would probably tell them, Vinny, just to download Coinbase, okay, or crypto.com, and set up autosave, and just do $10 a week of Bitcoin. Just super small. You can buy it in Satoshis, or Satoshi is just a fraction. You don't have to buy the whole coin, which is 42,000 right now, and just buy $10 a week. Because imagine Bitcoin being 100,000 in the next quarter. So even if you bought it at the fraction, your money percentage wise has grown substantially. So either way, you're winning. So I would just start there.
It is, and I'll finish off with this question. Is there any, advice you would give to your younger self, that 19-year-old woman that with her parents kind of losing everything, trying to find another way of income? What advice would you give to that person?
I would probably say that, and this might sound a little harsh, but when you're dating or looking at marrying someone, you cannot love is important. Okay, it is. But I don't think it's the only thing you need to look at. You need to understand, especially if you want a lot out of life, you got to look at the core values. You got to look at the man's ambition. You got to look at, his family life, his relationships with his family, his work ethic. Has he realized any potential at all? And it depends on, how old you are, because at 19, you're gonna have a lot more grace than if you're 30 or if you're 40. So I think that it's important. And I think sometimes people are like, oh yeah, just look at that. But if you're really ambitious, that matters. And I learned that in my first marriage and my second marriage. I was like, okay, this matters. My husband is a visionary. He's ambitious. He's a hard worker. He's realized a lot of his potential. So I knew we would go the distance, because there are going to be differences. But as long as the core values are in place, so that's what I would tell my younger self. Like, don't compromise what you feel like you want out of life for the sake of a relationship, because either you're going to be held back from your dreams, or you're going to just let them go altogether. And I've seen too many people compromise what they really want because they're with a spouse that just really doesn't want the same.
Yeah. That's probably a difficult thing. There was something, before I got married, I had a list of all the things I was looking for in a relation. Because I remember hearing someone talk about it, was the idea that after, I think it's 2 or 3 dates, you kind of forget all the negatives of the person and you start only looking at the positives. So you have to have that list to look at and remind yourself and go, okay, let me check off this box right here. They have this, that. Nope, they don't. Okay, I don't care how great they look or that emotion. Sorry, on to the next one.
Yeah, seriously, because, after you get done with the butterflies, 6 months, and the bills start coming in, and decisions have to be made, and children and responsibility. And yeah, that stuff is super, super important. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people who feel like they might have married the wrong person because they weren't thinking about the totality, of their life, how they wanted to live, and what they wanted to do. We live a very good life. We have properties bi-coastally. But for some men, I might be like, I don't take all that. I don't want all of that, you know. And you know what? You got to respect that. There's nothing wrong with that they don't want all that. But if you do want all of that, you need to be real about that and make sure that the person you're dating or talking about marrying, that you're in alignment, because otherwise you could end up having some real problems.
Yeah. Well, if someone's listening right now and they're looking to kind of follow your journey and maybe kind of follow your journey onto the idea of digital currency, digital land, digital, whatever it might be, I mean, what's the best way of them kind of following you, finding more information about you, or reaching out to you?
JewelTankard.com. Everything is JewelTankard.com for the website, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Jewel Tankard.
Well, thank you, Jewel, for being here. Thank you for giving all your insight. You make it sound so easy. I mean, it's just, and some, you know what reality is? I think the first step, like Jewel talked about, is download Coinbase. Once you get that going right there, then you know what the funny thing is Coinbase, if you download it, I think they give you like some free currency, not necessarily Bitcoin, but they give you, so just by downloading it, take a couple questions, you'll actually get free money. What more do you want?
Listen, it's all, everything. You just have to make a decision that I'm a student. I like to tell people when they say, oh, you're a wealth expert, I'm a wealth master student. I am always studying wealth, and I study it every single day. And that's really the key, because what's hot today doesn't mean it's going to be hot in 6 months or hot in a year. You know, last year we were telling people just buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now we're teaching them how to stake it, how to farm it, how to trade it. There's so many different ways to make money on it. But if I wasn't a student of it, then I would just still be stuck on buying it. And that's just one form of building wealth. So becoming a student, I think, of wealth is really, really important, especially now. Everything is very, very much evolving.
Oh, thank you again, Jewel.
Thank you.
Everyone, if you're listening, please subscribe, please share, and go find Jewel. Bye, everyone.